Love the flavor.
That's spot on.
I love that.
Greetings, fellow mortals. Just a reminder, saying it's just my opinion is for cowards. I do not fear the internet. I fear the people that bring the internet to real life. You wanna know what the first anime I ever watched was? Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, shocker, I know. But I was confused at the start of that show when they expected me to know who everyone was. Yeah, forgive my 5-year-old self for not realizing that this was a sequel series. But the second anime I consciously remember watching week after week was Yu Yu Hakusho. Was I too young to watch it? Oh, most definitely. Did I enjoy the hell out of it? Oh, absolutely. In fact, I think Yu Yu Hakusho might have been the first manga and anime that I ever completed from start to finish. I mean, it does help that it is only 19 volumes and 176 chapters. All of that was a long time ago, way before even high school. So imagine my shock when a live action adaptation for Yu Yu Hakusho was announced, and it was set in Japan and made by the Japanese. Thank you, sweet dear baby Jesus, for that. Can you imagine an American adaptation of this? Yusuke would be called Courage or Brave or something equally stupid, and he would be the butt of every single joke. And Kelly, aka Keiko, would be the true heroine, solving all of the problems with the main character screaming and crying and pissing himself all the time. Don't believe me? Remember the live action Death Note? I sure do.
Oh, no.
But nope, we not only got a good live action adaptation, we got a great one, perhaps one of the best that I've ever seen. If you don't know, Yu Yu Hakusho follows Yusuke, a delinquent with an attitude problem misunderstood by the world. After dying to save an innocent kid from being run over by a truck, Yusuke is given the chance to live again by Koenma and Botan. Except there's a problem. He doesn't want to go back because he doesn't see any purpose or value in his own life. Fortunately, his attitude changes when he goes to see his own funeral as a ghost. There, he sees all of the people who actually care for him, his childhood friend Keiko, his rival Kuwabara, and his mother, and in the manga and anime, the principal of his school who actually never gave up on him. This convinces Yusuke to give life another chance. Through a bunch of shenanigans, he eventually comes back to life and becomes a spirit detective for the afterlife. He's meant to hunt down yokai or demons in the human world and prevent them from spreading chaos across the land. Eventually, he's joined by a spiritually aware Kuwabara, a reformed demon Kurama, and a somewhat reluctant Hiei. In this sense, the live adaptation got everything right, especially in terms of personalities. Even without looking back through my collection, I could instantly remember every single person. The wave of nostalgia was intense, my friends. It reminds me of my preteen years watching AMVs on YouTube.
Yeah, remember Alex? Remember?
The first thing I have to praise is the performances, especially from Yusuke and Kuwabara's actors. They completely nailed the characters, Yusuke's intense attitude and Kuwabara's passion and goofiness. I will say that some of the humor and harshness of Yusuke's character was softened a bit, especially at the start with flipping skirts and extorting money from people, but I can understand the reluctance to do that in live action. It was kind of off-putting when I was a kid, and it's still off-putting now, and they don't have time for that much character development in 5 episodes. The next thing that I noticed were the camera shots and the cinematography. The camera often introduced a location with a wide shot, giving a great sense of scale and pinpointing how far characters were from landmarks. The sets and locations were stunning and memorable, from the gritty human world back alleys to the glowing afterlife and even to the wide fighting arenas. And the fighting scenes were great. Many events were taken right from the manga and expanded upon as much as possible in live action. But oddly enough, the first major fight scene in the show at the end of episode 1 was my favorite, and it's not even from the source material.
Impressive. Very nice.
Now, the single biggest problem with this adaptation is that they are literally trying to fit 113 chapters into 5 one-hour episodes. Yeah, a lot of things were cut out. There was an entire arc where Kurama and Hiei first work with Yusuke and Kuwabara that got cut. Not to mention a lot of the training arc. Not to mention the entirety of the Dark Tournament was erased. Boo, boo, Wendy, boo. But they did have only 5 episodes to work with, and they had to make sure to keep the character establishing moments intact. The ghost aspect took up a whole episode, as did the 3 Ancient Artifacts arc, as did training with Genkai. That's 3 arcs in 3 episodes. Oddly enough though, they did a solid job with the pacing. If I did not know better, I would have never realized they were skipping so much source material. My wife actually watched this with me, and she enjoyed it, especially when I broke out the manga and explained what the show was skipping. The various ghost stories were the things that she was most sad about, but this did get her into the manga just a little bit, and the show creators did manage to fit all of the necessary material into 5 episodes without many problems at all. It was surprisingly coherent, and it worked perfectly. As I always say, if your biggest problem with something is that you want more of it, it might be time just to shut up a little bit. But, like with One Piece, I don't like when the emotional moments are left out. Although I do think that Yu Yu Hakusho's live-action adaptation has far fewer unnecessary changes than the One Piece show.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions. Number 1, how dare you?
But I do appreciate these live-action adaptations keeping the weirdness from the manga intact. Koenma still has a binky in his mouth and Junior stamped on his forehead, even if he's an adult from the start. I get that change though, there's really no getting around it. Same thing with all of the other designs. Everyone was very faithful to the manga, even Genkai with her pink hair. And to my own shock, I think the live action show did a better job foreshadowing and establishing the overarching plot compared to the manga. You can tell the original creator had only a rough idea of where he was going with the concept of this story. At chapter 1, he didn't know that the Dark Tournament arc was going to happen like it did, if he knew at all. Don't forget, Yu Yu Hakusho is one of the OG. It took the story literally 1 arc at a time without any more world building and character information than was necessary. Then it was expanded upon. For example, I doubt Hiei's sister even existed when he was first introduced. The live action show actually does a great job building up all of the established information from the source material and ingraining it into you long before you absolutely need to know about it. There was even information provided that we didn't need to know until after the Dark Tournament arc. The show mentioned other spirit detectives early on, but the manga treated Yusuke like the first until it was time for him not to be that anymore.
I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that.
Live action Yu Yu Hakusho is as perfect as a 5-episode adaptation can be. You can tell they weren't planning for a second season, even if there is enough material for it, and they did plant a few seeds, but you can see that there is no expectation for it. I will say that it is the perfect starting point to get into a manga that started out in 1990 and ended in 1994. Get people to watch this show and then go back to the manga. But it does make me want more. Maybe a live action show where each arc gets its own season. There's enough content for that, that's for sure. Or maybe a remake of the anime would be good, just to polish up the animation and bring it to a new audience. I love the old series, but you know, people prefer new compared to old. It's why One Piece is redoing the East Blue arc anime once again. All in all, it does seem like the trend of Netflix Death Note and Dragon Ball Evolution is finally over. Just respect the source material. It is not that hard. I get that some of the powers and fights can be a bit hard to adapt. Yu Yu Hakusho's CGI isn't anything to write home about, but it was consistent all the way through. And they did live action whenever possible. They took the ball and ran with it. When the final episode ended, I was satisfied with what they accomplished. They respected the original manga. No, the people behind this loved the original manga, and that shows. Compare that to some of the other projects over here in the West, which are obviously just a paycheck to some people. There is a noticeable difference, and I hope everyone gives the show and the manga the appreciation that it deserves. You're welcome to disagree with all this. That's fine. After all, everyone is entitled to their objectively wrong opinion.
Really makes you think.
Hey, do you like stories about an interconnected world? Then consider giving my Hakusho books a try. They are all connected in some way, but you can jump in at any point, unless it's a series. Then you have to start at the beginning. But I got 3 books out right now, and 3 coming next year. You will not have to wait long for content. Either way, thank you. I appreciate you. Do not despair.